You still going to pursue a change of venue?
Absolutely. We would like a diverse venue, a diverse jury.
Do you have any expectation that will be granted?
That reflects the characteristics of the American people. It's up to the judge. I think West Virginia would be an excellent venue to try this case.
Speaking of the judge,
very close to D.C. and a much more diverse.
Now look, I'm not saying that Trump's attorneys are bad. I'm simply saying that when you have a reputation for never paying anyone who works for you, you end up with a certain quality person, who in this case just so happens to be really bad. Here, Trump's attorneys are explaining how his team is looking to change the venue for Trump's trial from Washington, D.C. to somewhere with a jury that's a little more diverse, perhaps a broader range of views, somewhere that looks a little different. You know, like something in West Virginia, famously diverse West Virginia, where white people account for more than 92% of the population. See, they're just looking for a little diversity. He goes on to say that the reason Trump should have the venue changed to West Virginia is that it, quote, reflects the characteristics of the American people, which is a lot of words to say we need a jury that is white. It's pretty amazing how this guy could point to one of the whitest states in the country and claim that that place is more American with no acknowledgement to the fact that he is being a raging racist. Just because a place is more white does not make it more American. Although I'll be honest, I'm exactly 0% surprised that someone working for Donald Trump would think so. Also, I don't know who needs to hear this, but Donald Trump is not entitled to a white jury. He's not entitled to any type of jury other than one that's fair. And I would humbly suggest that if you have that much of an aversion to a DC jury, then perhaps don't commit crimes in DC. Just, you know, for starters. The good news, though, is that knowing Donald Trump, chances are that he'll also have the opportunity to draw a West Virginia jury, considering there is a non-zero chance that he'll also commit crimes in West Virginia. And then he'll have the pleasure of watching a quote-unquote diverse jury there convict him of crimes too. I spoke with my Legal Breakdown co-host Glenn Kirshner about the chances of the judge actually granting Trump's request for a change of venue, and let's just say he wasn't too bullish on it actually happening.
Zero. Because the main reason somebody moves for a change of venue is because a case has gotten so much local publicity that the local jury pool can't really be expected to be fair and impartial. Well, this is not exactly a local story. It's not exactly a national story. It's a global story. There is no other jurisdiction that this trial could be transferred to where people were unimpacted or unaware of what happened on and around January 6th. So, you know, it really is, I don't know, ironic, if irony is still a thing, that Donald Trump is perfectly happy to have his criminal cases tried in Florida in a deeply red jurisdiction with a judge he appointed. And that same judge has already been found by the appellate court to have abused her discretion and acted unlawfully to Donald Trump's significant benefit. He's got no problem with venue in that case being in Florida. A motion for a change of venue, in my experience, has never been successful. I'm not saying it's never been granted. There, I think, have been a few instances where change of venue has been granted, but it will not play in this case.
All of which is to say, Donald Trump will be tried in Washington, D.C., and whining will be just about the only thing he can do about it. Trump's attorney was then asked this.
John, before I let you go, do you remember what you were doing the early morning of November 9th, 2016?
I have no idea.
Well, I remember what I was doing. I was covering President-elect Trump announcing that he had won the presidency about 3 a.m. that morning after the November 8th election. My question to you, John, is how did he know he won?
Well, politicians are convinced in the righteousness of their cause, including President Trump. And he certainly believed that he won.
But on what basis did he know he
won?
But on what basis did he know he won?
Can I finish? Can I finish?
Sure.
Can I finish? And he believed in 2020 that he won based on the fact that he had 10 million more votes than in 2016. He had a situation where somehow President Biden, or at that time candidate Biden, received 15 million more votes than Hillary Clinton. And he also understood in 2020 that President Trump understood that he had won virtually all of the bellwether counties and 84% of all the counties in the country.
John, let me help you with this.
That he was successful.
John, let me help you with this. I wasn't asking about 2020.
No, let me help you with this because
I wasn't asking about 2020, John. John, I wasn't asking about 2020. I was asking about 2016.
Right.
Because the votes were still being counted in 2016. The votes were still being counted in 2016. There had been no recounts. How did he know in 2016 that he had won? How did he know? On what basis?
The issue, let me just tell you something. The issue in this criminal case is not what happened in 2016 and whether all candidates say they won. The issue now is in 2020 whether or not the Justice Department can weaponize criminal law to go after a political opponent and prevent that opponent from running for office. That's the issue, not what happened in 2016.
John Lauro, we thank you for your time.
Do you think it's fair what the Biden administration is doing to a candidate for president?
John Lauro, we thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Think of it like this. In the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl in 2019, but then lost in 2020. If you would have asked them in 2019 how they knew they won, they'd have simply said, we scored more points in the game. But now imagine they refuse to accept their loss the next year in 2020, and you ask them again, they would refuse to say that they knew they won in 2019 by points, because by that logic, it would become clear that they lost in 2020. And so now the goalposts are being moved in service of the lie. That's what's going on here. Trump's lawyer is refusing to say that Trump knew he'd won in 2016 because he was the first person to reach 270 electoral votes, because by that same logic, it would become clear that Biden won in 2020. And so instead, we're being fed lies on national television by this guy whose sole job is to twist himself into pretzels while peddling bullshit on behalf of his criminal client. It really is interesting that Trump was able to declare victory in 2016 without filing 65 lawsuits and demanding recounts and audits and pressuring state officials and legislators. Interesting how when it was clear that he'd gotten enough votes in a free and fair election in 2016, that was sufficient for him. But when that same process didn't go his way in 2020, there was not a single thing on God's green earth that could be done to satisfy Trump's concerns. Think about it. There were no recounts in any of the battleground states back in 2016. How could Trump have possibly trusted the outcome of that election? How could he have possibly trusted the outcome without all these audits? Heads he wins, tails you lose. So look, Trump's attorneys will continue to peddle these desperate tactics on national TV because they have no other defense. Jack Smith has their client dead to rights, and they know that, so they're just throwing a bunch of legal spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. And they're whining about the venue, and they're whining about free speech, and they're whining about Trump's polling, and they're whining about Biden, but at no point are they actually able to present a valid defense because there isn't one. Sometimes it's what isn't said that speaks the loudest. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to the channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way, and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.